The greatest battlefield is not out there. It is inside you. Strength that depends on others dies quickly, but strength born within never fades. Reinvention does not happen by accident, it happens by choice. The one who becomes master of himself becomes master of all. These words carry a weight deeper than mere ambition. True strength has never been about how many people you can bend to your will, how loudly you can command a room, or how much control you appear to have over others. That kind of strength is fragile, dependent on fear, reputation, and circumstance. The moment fear fades, or circumstances change, that power crumbles. But the strength born from self-mastery is untouchable, because it does not depend on anyone else. It comes from within you. Think of it this way. If a man controls 1,000 soldiers, but cannot control his own anger, is he truly powerful? If a leader can move nations but is enslaved by his greed, is that real strength? Machiavelli hinted at this truth when he spoke of virtue, a force not of chance, but of inner discipline, courage, and willpower. Mastery of others may give you temporary authority, but mastery of yourself grants you permanence. It means you are no longer a puppet to your own impulses, emotions, or weaknesses. Self-mastery is the art of restraint and direction. It is knowing when to speak and when silence is more powerful. It is training yourself to remain steady when the world tests you, rather than reacting with panic or pride. It is refusing to be carried away by anger, by envy, by despair. Anyone can rule others through intimidation, but few can rule themselves when temptations whisper and fears scream. That is why true strength is rare. It requires a kind of cold-blooded clarity that does not flinch in the face of pain, loss, or rejection. Consider the generals of history, the thinkers, the kings. Those who lost control of their own desires were eventually undone by them. A ruler who cannot govern his own appetites cannot govern a state. A man who cannot govern his impulses cannot govern his destiny. This is why Machiavelli did not praise softness of character. He praised discipline, sharpness, and the ability to rise above personal weakness. Because in the end, the enemy outside is never as dangerous as the enemy within. Ask yourself, what truly weakens you? It is not the competition. It is not the doubters. It is not even failure itself. What weakens you most are the moments you give in to fear when courage was required, to comfort when effort was needed, to resentment when patience could have built something greater. Self-mastery is the ability to recognize these moments and choose strength over surrender. Each time you conquer yourself, you grow more powerful in ways the world cannot measure. Domination of others is an illusion. It feeds the ego, but starves the spirit. A tyrant may appear powerful, but he lives in constant fear of rebellion. A manipulator may seem clever, but he cannot escape the rot of his own lies. But the person who has mastered themselves carries no such burden. They walk into every room with an invisible authority, because nothing inside them can be bought, broken, or swayed. Their calmness unsettles the chaotic. Their clarity silences the noisy. Their endurance outlasts the impatient. To master yourself means to live above the pull of the crowd. It means refusing to measure yourself against others, because the only true opponent is who you were yesterday. You do not need to dominate anyone, because the highest form of victory is to look at yourself and know you have won the battle within. That victory cannot be stolen, and it cannot be faked. This is why true strength begins and ends with self-mastery. It is the foundation upon which all power is built. Without it, achievements collapse, respect fades, and legacies vanish. With it, even in silence, even in solitude, you carry a strength that shapes destiny. To conquer others is impressive, but to conquer yourself, that is greatness. Reinvention is a deliberate choice, not a stroke of luck. Too many people live under the illusion that transformation is something that happens by chance, as though greatness falls like rain from the sky, blessing a select few. They wait for opportunities, for the right time, for someone to notice them, or for fortune to open the doors of destiny. But waiting is the language of weakness. Reinvention, the act of becoming something more than what you were yesterday, is never a matter of chance. It is a decision. It is the conscious rejection of stagnation, the deliberate act of breaking free from what confines you, and the steady discipline of building a new self, with intention. Machiavelli understood this truth when he wrote about fortune and virtue. Fortune, he said, is unpredictable, a river that floods without warning. But virtue, which he defined not as moral goodness, but as strength, discipline, and the ability to act with vision, is entirely within human control. Fortune may place obstacles or opportunities in your path, but it is your deliberate choice, your reinvention, that determines whether those moments shape you or destroy you. Think of all the people who sit and wait for their lives to change. They wait for a lucky break, for someone powerful to notice their talent, for circumstances to shift in their favor. Yet life does not reward the passive, life rewards those who act. Reinvention is an act of defiance against the passive hope that things will someday change on their own. It is saying, I will not be the same tomorrow as I am today, and then shaping your habits, thoughts, and actions around that declaration. This is why those who rely on luck often fade into obscurity, while those who rely on choice and deliberate effort create a legacy. Reinvention requires awareness first. You cannot transform what you refuse to see. A man who believes he is already complete will never grow stronger. A woman who ignores her own weaknesses will never outgrow them. The first step of reinvention is the ruthless honesty, to face who you are at this moment, your strength, your flaws, your habits, your fears, and admit that the current version of yourself is not enough for where you want to go. It is not an admission of failure, but an acknowledgement of possibility. By saying this version of me has served its time, but I must evolve, you step into the territory of deliberate growth. And make no mistake, reinvention is uncomfortable. It demands sacrifice. To reinvent yourself means shedding the comforts that have kept you weak, severing attachments to old identities, and facing the silence of starting over. The person addicted to distraction must learn the discipline of focus. The one enslaved by approval must learn to walk alone. The one who has lived in fear must learn to stand in courage, even when trembling. Each of these choices is an act of reinvention, and each demands conscious effort. Luck cannot teach you these things. Chance cannot instill discipline. Fortune cannot rewrite your habits. Only you can. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler who relies too heavily on fortune is ruined when fortune turns against him. But a ruler who builds his power through virtue, through deliberate preparation and adaptability, can withstand the storms of fate. The same is true for you. Luck may give you a moment of recognition, but if you are not reinvented into someone strong enough to sustain it, that moment will slip away. Reinvention is the armor you wear against the unpredictability of life. It is the proof that even if fortune abandons you, you remain unshaken, because your strength comes from within, not from chance. To deliberately reinvent yourself is also to understand the art of strategy. You do not simply wander into a new identity, you craft. Just as a sculptor removes stone to reveal the figure within, reinvention means cutting away what no longer serves you. It is a process of elimination as much as creation. What habits weaken you? Remove them. What beliefs limit you? Replace them. What environments keep you stagnant? Leave them. Reinvention is not an accident. It is a carefully chosen battlefield, where you decide piece by piece who you will become. And yet, so many people resist reinvention because they cling to the past. They fear letting go of old identities because those identities feel safe, even if they are prisons. They fear the judgment of others, who expect them to remain the same. But Machiavelli's method reminds us that those who cling to the past are overtaken by those who dare to adapt. Power belongs not to the one who resists change, but the one who bends change to their will. Reinvention is not betrayal of who you were, it is the fulfillment of who you are meant to be. The beauty of deliberate reinvention is that it places destiny back into your hands. You no longer wait for opportunity, you prepare for it. You no longer beg for luck, you create circumstances through effort. You no longer see yourself as fixed, you see yourself as a force in motion. The weakest version of you can be replaced by the strongest version, if you choose it, if you commit to it, if you endure the fire of transformation. Each deliberate choice, waking early to train, studying when others rest, practicing patience when anger tempts you, becomes a brick in the fortress of your reinvention. True reinvention is not dramatic or sudden, it is steady and relentless. It does not announce itself with noise, but reveals itself over time, like a tree growing silently stronger each season, until one day its presence is undeniable. The world may look at you and call it luck, but you will know the truth. It was choice, it was discipline, it was the daily decision to refuse weakness and embrace growth. Reinvention separates those who are merely alive from those who are truly powerful. Luck may touch anyone, but reinvention belongs only to the few who dare to take responsibility for their own transformation. This is what Machiavelli's method teaches us. Do not wait for fortune to decide your future. Choose who you will become. Build that self deliberate. Reinvent again and again, until no version of yourself remains weaker than the one that came before. That is the path to power, and that is the path to becoming the strongest version of yourself. Detachment from weaknesses allows focus on power and clarity. This is a truth that many resist, because it demands a ruthless honesty about the parts of ourselves we would rather hide, excuse, or defend. Weakness often masquerades as comfort, as kindness, even as identity. We cling to it because it feels familiar, because it shields us from the difficulty of growth, because it allows us to remain where we are without facing the sharp edge of change. But weakness, no matter how well disguised, quietly erodes power. It clouds judgment, breeds hesitation, and chains us to mediocrity. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote that a ruler must often step outside the pull of emotion and affection in order to make decisions that secure lasting power. The same principle applies to the individual. Detachment from weakness is not coldness, but clarity. It is the willingness to put distance between yourself and the habits, attachments, and illusions that keep you small, so you can focus your energy on building strength and commanding control over your own path. To detach from weakness, you must first name it. Weakness does not always shout. Often it whispers. It whispers in the excuses you make, in the distractions you allow, in the moments you betray your own potential for the sake of short-term ease. It whispers when you say, "I will start tomorrow," when you know tomorrow becomes never. It whispers when you cling to people who drain your energy, when you indulge in habits that dull your mind, when you avoid the discomfort that growth demands. To confront weakness is to strip away its disguises and see it as it is, an anchor holding you in place while others sail forward. Detachment begins with the recognition that if you continue to serve your weaknesses, you will never serve your power. Detachment is not indifference, it is discipline. It does not mean you feel nothing, it means you refuse to let feelings dictate your destiny. Weakness thrives on attachment to comfort, to approval, to old wounds, to fears that have long outlived their usefulness. A person attached to these things cannot move with clarity, because every decision is clouded by hidden loyalties to their own limitation. To detach is to cut those cords. It is to stand apart from your impulses and observe them without being ruled by them. It is to say, yes, fear is present, but it does not command me. Yes, comfort tempts me, but it does not rule me. Yes, doubt whispers, but it will not decide my fate. That space between reaction and action, between weakness and willpower, is where clarity is born. Machiavelli wrote of the prince, who must sometimes act against pity, against faith, against softness, if those qualities threaten the security of his power. In the same way, you must sometimes act against your own inner softness, against the part of you that longs for easy roads, shallow approval, and the illusion of safety. Power is not found in indulging these weaknesses. Power is found in detaching from them, so that your choices are not clouded by fear or desire. Only when you remove these distractions can you see your path clearly, as if a fog has lifted. And clarity is power, because it allows you to act decisively, while others hesitate, to move forward, while others are paralyzed by doubt. Consider the example of someone enslaved by anger. Each insult, each slight, each injustice, stirs rage that consumes focus and energy. Their vision narrows, their judgment weakens, and their decisions are reckless. But one who detaches from anger does not deny its existence. They simply refuse to be controlled by it. They rise above the immediate sting and see the broader picture, the strategy beyond the moment. Where the angry man sees only offense, the detached man sees opportunity. Where one is blinded by reaction, the other sees clearly the moves that must be made. This is the essence of power, choosing clarity over reaction, strength over weakness. The same applies to attachment to approval. Many live their lives as prisoners of others' opinions. They dress for it, speak for it, act for it, and in doing so, surrender their freedom. But when you detach from the need for approval, clarity emerges. You see not what pleases others, but what strengthens you. You act not for applause, but for alignment with your vision. And in that clarity, power grows, because a person who does not beg for validation is immune to manipulation. They stand on their own ground, untouchable by the shifting winds of public opinion. Detachment also applies to the past. Many remain bound to old failures, old betrayals, old versions of themselves. They carry these memories like weights, revisiting them again and again, allowing them to define their present. But the past is a chain if you do not learn to detach. Clarity comes when you recognize that the past cannot be changed, only studied and released. To detach from it is to reclaim the energy wasted on regret and redirect it toward building a stronger future. Weakness clings to the past, strength releases it and steps forward with unburdened focus. Detachment does not make you less human. It makes you more formidable. It sharpens you like a blade free of rust, cutting through the noise of distraction and illusion. It allows you to see the world and yourself as they truly are, without the distortions of fear, doubt, or desire. And from that vantage point, every decision you make carries weight, because it is born from clarity, not confusion. People respect those who see clearly and act with precision, because such individuals are rare. They exude authority without raising their voice, because clarity itself is a form of power. To live attached to weakness is to remain enslaved to forces that offer you nothing in return. To detach from weakness is to reclaim your strength and direct it toward what matters. It is to free yourself from the grip of distraction, so your mind can focus, your energy can concentrate, and your will can dominate. This is not the path of ease, but it is the path of mastery. Machiavelli's method reminds us that clarity and power belong not to those who are ruled by weakness,
but to those who have learned to step outside it. The moment you detach, you rise above. And once you rise above, you are no longer tangled in the fog of mediocrity. You are standing on higher ground, where vision is sharp, action is deliberate, and power flows naturally from within. Legacy is built not by following the crowd, but by shaping yourself with discipline and vision. Crowds are fickle, shifting with the winds of time, chasing whatever shines brightest in the moment, and discarding it as soon as a new distraction appears. To follow the crowd is to dissolve into anonymity, to become one more voice in the endless noise, one more figure swept away in the tide of conformity. But legacy is not born in noise, it is born in silence, in the steady labor of shaping yourself into something rare, something unshakable, something so disciplined and visionary that it leaves an imprint long after you are gone. Machiavelli understood that rulers who bowed to the desires of the crowd quickly lost power, for the crowd is never satisfied. But those who ruled with clarity of vision, with the discipline to stand apart, became immortal in memory. The same is true for you. If you live as the crowd lives, you will vanish as the crowd vanishes. If you live with vision and discipline, you carve a mark into time itself. Discipline is the foundation of legacy, because it proves that you were not a slave to impulse. The crowd indulges in distraction, in comfort, in the easy path. They live for today's pleasure, forgetting tomorrow's consequence. But the disciplined individual delays gratification, resists temptation, and builds habits that strengthen rather than weaken. Every choice of discipline is a stone laid in the fortress of your legacy. The athlete who trains in silence, the thinker who studies in solitude, the leader who refuses to compromise his principles for fleeting applause, all are shaping themselves into something lasting. Legacy is not made by dramatic acts of luck, but by the small, invisible disciplines, repeated relentlessly, until they accumulate into greatness. Vision is equally crucial, because discipline without vision is directionless labor. The crowd works, but often without clarity, chasing what others chase, simply because it is in fashion. Vision allows you to see beyond the present moment, to imagine not only what you are, but what you must become. It is the ability to look past the distractions and trends, to fix your eyes on a goal so compelling that every act of discipline feels purposeful. Vision is what transforms effort into destiny. Machiavelli admired leaders who could foresee shifts in power and prepare accordingly, who could anticipate the future rather than merely react to the present. Your personal legacy depends on this same capacity to see beyond the noise of the crowd and anchor yourself to a vision of who you are determined to become. Following the crowd may grant temporary comfort, but it steals permanent. The crowd applauds what is popular, but history remembers what is powerful. Look at the figures whose legacies endure: philosophers, rulers, inventors, thinkers, warriors. None of them became great by imitating the multitude. They became great by resisting it, by daring to stand apart, by shaping themselves into something unique through discipline and vision. The crowd may mock you for rising above, for choosing a harder path, but the same crowd will one day point to you as an example when your legacy shines beyond their reach. The danger of following the crowd is that it traps you in the shallow. The crowd wants approval, not truth. It wants comfort, not growth. It wants ease, not excellence. To live by these values is to waste your life in pursuit of what vanishes the moment you close your eyes. But discipline rejects ease, and vision rejects shallowness. Together they lift you above the tide of mediocrity. Discipline trains your character to endure when others surrender, and vision guides your steps so that endurance is never wasted. Every day you choose discipline and vision, you are writing a story that will outlive you. Legacy is not measured in wealth, possessions, or followers. These can be taken, spent, or forgotten. Legacy is measured in impact, how deeply your strength, your clarity, your vision, affect others, even long after you are gone. The disciplined and visionary person becomes a standard, a reference point. People say, this is what it means to live with strength. This is what it means to see beyond the present. That is the essence of legacy, to shape yourself so completely that others cannot help but be shaped by your example. And legacy does not come from grand speeches alone. It comes from the life you live when no one is watching. The crowd acts differently when it is unseen, because its values are shallow. But the person of discipline acts with the same integrity in solitude as in public. This consistency builds a legacy, because people know your strength is real, not performance. Vision too is tested in solitude, when no applause comes, when progress feels invisible, when doubt whispers that you are alone. But if you remain true to your vision, if you continue shaping yourself with patience and precision, your legacy will grow roots so deep that no storm can uproot it. Machiavelli's teachings reveal that power built on pleasing the crowd is unstable, while power built on discipline and vision endures. The crowd's praise may rise like a wave, but it crashes just as quickly. Legacy, however, is like a mountain, built slowly, but immovable once it stands. To shape yourself with discipline is to lay the foundation. To shape yourself with vision is to set the peak in place. What remains after you are gone is not what you followed, but what you created. Do not seek to be remembered as one of many. Seek to be remembered as one who stood apart. The crowd disappears into the fog of time, but the disciplined and visionary individual shines like a torch in the darkness of history. Legacy belongs not to those who sought comfort, but to those who sacrificed it. Not to those who imitated, but to those who created. Not to those who followed the shifting path of the multitude, but to those who carved their own road with iron discipline and unshakable vision. So ask yourself, what will remain of you when your voice falls silent? Will you be one of the countless faces swallowed by the crowd, or will you stand as one of the rare few who shaped themselves into something unforgettable? Your legacy is not written by others, it is written by your discipline, forged by your vision, and sealed by the courage to walk alone when the crowd demanded conformity. If you dare to live this way, your name, your strength, and your example will not fade with time. They will echo, they will endure, they will remind the world that true legacy is never borrowed from the crowd, but built by the one who chose to rise above it. In the end, the path to becoming the strongest version of yourself is not found in luck, nor in the fleeting applause of the crowd, nor in the domination of others. It is found in the mastery of your own mind, in the deliberate act of reinventing who you are, in the detachment from weakness that clouds your vision, and in the disciplined pursuit of a legacy that stands apart from the noise of the world. Machiavelli's method is not a call to cruelty, but to clarity, not a call to arrogance, but to strength. It is a reminder that power begins within, that reinvention is always a choice, that freedom lies in detachment, and that legacy belongs to those who shape themselves with vision. You cannot control fortune, but you can control yourself, and in doing so, you rise above the uncertainty of chance. So when your days are counted, and your voice falls silent, let the world remember, not a follower lost in the crowd, but a force of discipline, vision, and strength. Someone who mastered themselves, and by doing so mastered their destiny.